If you've tuned into political news any time over the last 40 years, you may have heard the word ANWR.
ANWR.
But what is ANWR? The Arctic National Wildlife Refuge has a long history of being the rope in a game of tug-of-war over drilling for oil in Alaska. But let's go back to the beginning. After the U.S. purchased Alaska from Russia, but before Alaska was declared a state, the U.S. government claimed land in Alaska's northern slope to help with the procurement of oil for World War II. The land remained closed well after the end of the war, as the Navy sank nearly $50 million into oil prospecting in the region. When oil was finally struck in the Gubik Formation, some locals petitioned to open the field for private drilling companies, while conservationists argued that the land should be preserved. The debate raged on for years until a compromise was reached, and the process was started to open the field and set aside a small plot of land for preservation. Then, in 1959,
in the White House, President Eisenhower signs the proclamation that makes Alaska's entry into the Union official, nearly 92 years after Lincoln's Secretary of State bought the territory from the Russian Tsar for $7 million. Now the president's signature makes it officially the 49th state.
By December 6, 1960, the oil fields were opened and 8.9 million acres of land were successfully set aside. Oil in the Gubik Formation never panned out. The new wildlife preservation, however, which was then called the Arctic Wildlife Range, was on its way to becoming the most hotly debated piece of land in modern U.S. history. On December 2, 1980, President Carter signed the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act. It expanded the Arctic Wildlife Range from 8.9 to 19.3 million acres and renamed it the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, or ANWR. The law also noted that no drilling or production could occur on the refuge without congressional approval. On March 16, 1989, a Senate committee approved leasing land for oil on the coastal plain of ANWR when
the tanker Exxon Valdez, gouged by a reef, more than 8.5 million gallons, poured into Prince William Sound, a prime fishing and recreation area. A 5-mile-long oil slick is moving out to sea.
The bill never regained momentum. The second time drills came close to ANWR was in 1995 when Republicans controlled both the House and the Senate. They slipped a provision to allow drilling in ANWR into the budget package. The Balanced Budget Act passed through both branches only to have President Clinton veto it.
This budget would give oil companies the right to drill in the last unspoiled Arctic wilderness in Alaska. Today, I am vetoing the biggest Medicare and Medicaid cuts in history, deep cuts in education, a rollback in environmental protection, and a tax increase on working families.
Most recently, President Obama's administration introduced a proposal to designate a portion of ANWR as protected wildlife.
My Department of Interior has put forward a comprehensive plan to make sure that we're protecting the refuge and that we're designating new areas, including coastal plains, for preservation.
On February 26, 2016, the House repealed the protections.
Our country is blessed with incredible natural resources, including abundant offshore oil and natural gas reserves.
Now, with all three branches of government controlled by the Republican Party, ANWR is again back in play.